What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Jimmy James 59, and I have a bit of a different video here for y'all today. So we've all been in this situation where we queue up on the ladder, we get our civ in that loading screen, we take a look at the civ matchup and we say, this is not good. Because you see, in Age of Empires 2, all the civilizations are different. They have different bonuses. Some civilizations have better technology trees than others. Some civilizations are a bit more, how we might say one trick, right? They don't have as many things that they can go for. Now, so you got to think about those things. And in this video, what I'd like to do is I would like to think about the kind of things that should start running through your head when you have a bad matchup. Because the truth is, if you take a look at the win rates of civilizations, there's really no civilization where it's like a 90-10, this civilization wins and that one loses, right? There's a lot of things you can do. There's a chance. And so the thing you don't want to do, you don't want to psych yourself out going into a game where you think that because it's a bad matchup, it's basically an auto loss. I think that at a mid-elo level, and honestly, I think probably at even really competitive play, there's still a chance. There's a way to make things happen. And so you want to think about those things. So I'm going to go through it in this matchup. This is a game I played in the ladder. This game is kind of at a mid 1300 level. And I want to run through this game because it's Lithuanians versus Indians. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to explain my thought process as this game is going on. So, right, I see this matchup and I think, man, I'm worried because Lithuanians tend to be a very cavalry-heavy civ, and Indians have some of the best camels in the game, so that's not going to fly. Lithuanians also don't have that great of archers. My opponent being super nice, awesome. You don't get arbalists, you do get crossbows. You get cavalry archers that are decent, but the thing is that Indians have fully upgraded cavalry archers. So I also don't feel like I can go toe-to-toe with Indians in the ranged game as well. And when it comes to the barracks, if I go infantry, Indians are even going to have better infantry because, say, my champion line, that sort of thing, is missing both blast furnace and the last armor upgrade. So this is getting to be kind of a strange matchup, I think. You might think, oh, maybe I could go something with hand cannoneers because Lithuanians do get those. But again, Indians, they can increase the range by 1, and so you can always be outranged. So this is a pretty tricky matchup for Lithuanians. So, right, let's get into the thought process here. So when I have a bad matchup, the first thing I think about is, can I end the game early? This is a really good strategy for when you have a civilization, say, with a strong economic bonus, and your opponent doesn't, right? So you might think this might be a nice strategy against civilizations that have very flexible late-game tech trees, something maybe like Byzantines, Spanish, right? Maybe even throw Incas in that. Civilizations to where if you let it get to the late game, you have some powerhouse civilizations that you're going to be looking at. So that is something that you want to ask yourself, can you take a real edge early? Now, thinking about this matchup, right, between Indians and Lithuanians, I actually thought to myself that, you know what, this is actually not even the best early game matchup because Lithuanians, although you start off with 150 food, you can get some really sick up times. Indians, right, they're going to have much cheaper villagers, which is a great eco bonus, so they can get up pretty quickly. So I'm already thinking that it's very possible that I won't be able to get a major economic advantage early, and that might not work, but I am still going to try to put pressure on my opponent early, see if I can slow him down, because to me that's basically the only way I can get to something, say, like Knights in Castle Age, which could be a nice closeout unit if he doesn't get the camel numbers up, and so it's something worth thinking about. So I am going to go for a really fast 20 pop men-at-arms build, and we're going to see how that works, right? Now, if we take a look at the maps here for just a second, you can see I have a forward gold, right? Kind of back berries, but it is off to the side. It's actually kind of exposed, sort of middle berries, backstone. It's not the best map, but it's not the worst. It's a bit tricky to wall off because this gold and the berries are going to be really exposed no matter how well you do your walls. I think my opponent has probably a better map to wall off here, though this side is pretty exposed. You could put some walls there, so it's going to be possible to go in. And I'm, if we could take a look at my scouting here, right? I know basically where he is. I see that house, right? We're going to go take a look, right? You're watching this. We're watching this old scout move along, right? And so take a look at this, right? It looks like we're both going for 20 pop-up times, right? So this is pretty interesting. Now, if you take a look, right, I saw that there were 3 on wood here. So I already know that my opponent is probably going to go for a scout build, right? Now I'm going for a men-at-arms build. That's going to hit earlier. So again, right, at this level of the game, the idle TC time in Dark Age is going to be pretty low. The build orders are going to be reasonably efficient, I think, in the Dark Age. And the Feudal Age is where things are going to start to get a bit froggy. Now, what am I thinking about here in terms of if I can't end it early, because, again, my opponent might be able to keep up with me early on. The second thing you really want to think about is, do you have any win conditions? What is your most favorable matchup that you can go for, right? And you might have to think a little bit outside of the box to get there, right? Just because if it's a bad matchup, then that means the normal kind of things that you would go for with a civilization, in the case of Lithuanians, say, going for knights, you're probably not going to be able to go for, right? So that's why we're not doing a scout rush here, because I feel like the Indian player can probably just get to it quicker than we can. I'm trying to keep this barracks from going up, right? Messing around a little bit with this guy, kind of, right, making life difficult. Again, I'm just trying to get that early advantage, because if I can delay this, and it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to, right, we're just trying to cause pressure at this point. My opponent's playing some really, really nice defense. It's a really nice move. You can tell he's a pretty strong player, right? He's got the moves. He's been watching the pro games, right? The pro gamers do their thing. And hey, but the thing is, though, we're already at his base, right? Our scout's taking a little bit of heat. We're moving him off berries, right? We're creating some idle economy time, right? We're not doing bad here. We're not doing bad, and we're just trying to keep everything running now. So we got to think about what the follow-up to this is. Well, I'm going to go for a range. Again, we're playing men-at-arms into archers, because the thing you want to think about in Feudal Age, right, and this is important, this is really important actually, is that for most civilizations, the reason why trying to end a game early is not a bad way to consider it is because in Feudal Age, civilizations are a lot more similar than they are different, right? Early game eco bonuses can give some civilizations some really good advantages in terms of uptimes. There are a few early game bonuses, right? But the technology tree in Feudal Age is actually pretty limited for civilizations, and so it's just not like you're going to be able to, you can't make unique units. There's a lot of civilizations that have bonuses that really don't kick in until later, and you start to see those limitations in the tech tree in the late game. So Feudal Age is where a lot of it can come down to skill and micro, right? As you see us lose the scout there, we see the skirmishers come out for our opponent here, right? And we're not going to be that worried about skirmishers, honestly, because they're not going to do that much damage with men-at-arms, especially, right, without fletching. And you can see here, right, we're creating some pretty good idle economy time. We've already idled the economy by 15 minutes. Our idle economy has been right about 3 minutes by comparison. So we're actually getting a lot of value here. So this is a nice play. Again, we're not getting an incredible amount of value, right? We've caused our opponent to get housed. He's having idle TC time. So we're starting to get some villager advantages, right? But one of the things that I'm seeing right here is that our opponent's actually playing really, really nice defense. And so even though, right, we have troops inbound, right, we're getting fletching, I am a bit worried at this point, right? And I realize that I got to start thinking about the late game, right? And trying to do this early damage is causing me some idle TC time as well. That's been pretty unnecessary. We've had the food for it. So, thinking about this, what is my win condition here? Well, what are the kind of things that Lithuanians do well, right? Knights, that's kind of out. Cav archers are kind of so-so. But because the matchup is against Indians, who also have fully upgraded elite skirmishers anyways, that's kind of out. We might be able to add light cavalry late, but again, if there's lots of camels, we can't do that. So, all right. So this is the thing that I want to think about here, right? And this is the sort of, I would call this my third principle. Can you move your opponent away from their strongest unit composition, right? Because what you're trying to do, you're trying to make a matchup that's just a little bit more in your favor here, right? That's what you're trying to do. And so our opponent's strongest gold units, really their only good gold units, are cav archers and camels. And honestly, what I'm really afraid of a bit more, given that we have more of a knight civ, is I'm thinking more about camels. Now, I'm going to have to scout that out and see what he wants to do, because right now I've just seen him going archers, and so he could be going for cav archers. So we're going to have to scout this guy out later, but this is something that we're thinking about. In the meantime, we're just trying to go ahead. We're trying to get walled up, keep the pressure on him at home as we see him start to, or he's trying to hunt for this army. He's not really moving out just yet. He's looking for this army, and it's actually good here that we show him this, because we're keeping him from going to our base, because we're actually not completely walled up yet, right? We're a little bit slow to the jump. We're going to get walled up here, but on the other side of our base, right, we're not there yet. Probably should wall out to here. Now, ooh, this is really good value. This is a really strange lumber camp, actually, from our opponent, and we're going to get a lot of value out of this. I mean, this is just money. Right? Even if we lose all of these archers here, we accomplish what we want to. You can see that we have blossomed, you might say, to an 8 villager lead. We're causing idle TC time. We're causing idle economy time, right? We're getting everything that we want to get out of this build, right? And this opening. But we haven't put them away just yet. We traded some archers to get those villager kills, and so we've slowed them down, and now we're going to have to think about what we do in Castle Age. So, if we're trying to get him away from his strong unit comp, away from castles and cav archers, what could counter that? Well, cavalry archers can be countered by a few things, right? Skirmishers, that's going to be tough to go for, and if he goes camels, it's not going to be the best counter. The other thing to think about is siege, right? Scorpions and even mangonels can be a really nice counter against cavalry archers. So it's probably something we can go for. And this leads into my fourth point. And my fourth point is thinking about, can you play an unexpected composition? Because again, what we're trying to do with this third principle of getting him away from his strong unit, for our fourth principle, trying to throw him off a bit, right? We want to get him away from his advantageous position. That's the whole goal here, right? We're really just trying to get him, put him in a situation where he's uncomfortable, because hey, if he's uncomfortable, that's going to help our chances of victory. As you can see, we're already on up to the next age, right? With a pretty decent castle age, some idle time definitely in there, but not a bad feudal age for us. And I'm actually thinking right now, again, I feel like, you know, he's going archers, and I decide to make 2 stables, right? And so we've got the stables, and given how many archers he's made at this point, I'm kind of thinking that he is going to want to go into cavalry archers, because he's got multiple ranges. Do I see these multiple ranges? I think I do. Yeah. So I know he's got multiple ranges, and that to me is a signal that he wants to go cav archers, right? But actually it turns out, right, he's putting up a stable, and he's actually researching cavalry upgrades. So this is the kind of thing, right? What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to close out this game, because I feel like I have an advantage. I feel like I've done a lot of damage to them, and we are up by a good number of villagers. And so the idea here is to go something like Knight and Skirmisher to open up. Right now, we're going to see if this works, right? That's going to be the main test. All right, so we are playing what might be an unexpected composition, because you wouldn't think about going Knights, but we're going to go ahead, right? We're going to give it a try, and we're actually not that much up on our opponent, so this is, I would say, a little bit of a misread here, as we are getting the second armor, right? Now, our opponent does have kind of a nice little archer army in there, but he's up now, and right, as we saw, right, he's got 2 stables now, right? He's got 2 range. He's got a lot of military buildings, actually. And these skirmishers, right, are cleaning up. He's got these archers in the back here. I mean, right, we have plus two armor now. We can go ahead, clean up this army that he has in the back of our base, right? All right, so we're going to chase this army down, and then we're going to have to see what we can do here. So, again, 1v1s, one of the things you always want to remember in 1v1s is that it's a game of counterplay. And that's actually another principle I would think about here, is that you got to think about what kind of counters that you have and what counters the units that your opponent's making, right? As you can see, gosh, the terrible pathing. Right, we're barely even getting any attacks on these archers. These skirmishers. Wow, it's so bad. That's so bad. Okay, now, right, let me actually pause the video. So, I'm already kind of setting things up here, because I know that these knights aren't going to be... I feel like these knights are probably going to fall out of favor, and we haven't done the early kind of damage that I was really, really hoping I'd be able to. So, at this point, we're at a decision point. And what I decided here is that I'm going to need to mix in pikemen. We've whittled these skirms down, and the composition that I'm thinking right now is to go for something like maybe Knight Pikemen, because pikemen will be a great counter to the camels. We've cleaned up a lot of skirmishers, and so we're going to try that combination, right, instead of trying to go for a Knight Skirmisher combo. So we're just going to see if that can work for us here. Okay, so now, right, our knights are going to go ahead, right? We're going to just peace out here, right, as we have, right, a second barracks coming up. So, again, we're going to commit to this Knight Pikeman combination, because that should fare fairly well against the camels. Again, it's one of these things. This is a double melee composition, so if our opponent goes something like Camel Skirm, that could actually be something of a problem. But again, we just destroyed a lot of skirmishers, and what are we seeing here, right? This is a lot of freaking camels, and he still has these archers that he was keeping in the back. So crafty from our opponent here, as we're just trying to run around at this point. And honestly, at this point, the thought process really is, we're in a bad spot here, right? This is what I don't want to see. We're actually seeing a double gold composition. And what I'm trying to do right now here, right? I'm going to lose these knights, but if I can sacrifice them, kill off some of these archers so that they're not a threat to the pikemen, because that's the real problem here, is that if we allow him to get to a double gold composition, right? Meanwhile, the camels, right, they're attacking up north, but we're not as worried about that. And now that we have more pikemen in this army, this is a much more engageable situation. Now, let me actually pause here, because, right, we're kind of at a decision point now. Do we keep investing into knights, or do we try and do something different? Because Knight Pikeman is going to be a very expensive combination. We've seen a lot of camels, and the knights are going to fall to those camels, right? So right now we're really putting a premium on pikemen. And again, you want to think about, you're going to have to change your strategy a little bit in 1v1s and be willing to adapt to what to see from your opponent. And I'm also really worried at this point when it comes to Indians, because Lithuanians, their economic bonus is only helping you in Dark Age with your opening and getting really nice early Feudal Age strategies. On water maps, maybe some, like early docks, that kind of thing. But when it comes to later in the game, the Indian economic bonus only gets stronger. So I'm really afraid of Indians booming. And actually, right now, they're on 3 TCs. We're just getting up our second one. So the thing I'm thinking about here actually is let's play a different kind of ball game here. Let's go ahead and play a Pike Siege Castle Age push and see if we can do damage. If he's sticking with camels, he's not going to be able to touch our siege. And if he decides to go something like skirmishers or archers, we can make mangonels to actually counter that unit. So this is actually a combination that really covers itself well. And Lithuanians have very fast moving spear units and also skirmishers too. But this is really nice. We can chase down units fairly well with this army. And so we can go ahead, pull back, and keep repositioning. Right, and so now, right, we're getting the mangonel out, right? You can see we have a nice surplus here of both wood and gold. In fact, we actually are floating a lot of resources right now. But that's okay, right? Because we're going to want to get more siege out. We're going to want to put pressure on our opponent. And this game has really started to even out here. I mean, the KD, very even. The Eco KD, right? It's 2-1, right? Hardly any villagers have died yet. Now, our opponent's mixing in skirmishers, but we still even have a couple knights in the field. We have a mangonel, right? This is not actually going to be the best composition, and we're causing some drama here, right? We're getting multiple mangonels out, right? We're going to go with a monastery, right? See if we can get some camel conversions, right? If we can get this thing up. And our opponent's so crafty here. I actually really love it. He comes back around to see if he can sneak in, get some kills, right? And it's so good from him, actually. But we have the pikemen right here, right? We have the pikemen right here, so he can't stay and fight. And the skirmishers, which do sort of soft counter the pikemen, right? It's not a perfectly hard counter, but they do a little bit of bonus damage against the spear line, right? This is not an army that our opponent can engage with this composition, right? We have a counter really to both units. And so even though, right, Lithuanians and Indians is not the best matchup in the world, right? By playing something a bit more unexpected in Castle Age, right? So we got a little bit of Wololo action going on. By playing a bit of a different composition here, right? We actually are doing a fairly nice job. Now, ooh, that's so brutal, right? Take a look at that. Oh my gosh, right? This was actually, right? This was a really cringe-worthy moment. I mean, it's great from our opponent. Taking out 3 mangonels with 1 is really delicious from him, right? But again, we're just cranking out units. He's trying to fight this. He really wants to take out this mangonel. We're just going to keep making them because, hey, if he's going to keep making camels and skirms, that's actually fine, right? We'll actually take that because that's a lot of food and a lot of gold that he's spending. And you got to think about our army composition. Yeah, losing these mangonels is rough, but we're losing some gold to get there. But we have a big surplus of gold, actually. We're not spending very much food, and our opponent's spending a lot of food, right? And so the fact of the matter is, right, is that we're not in a bad position. And you can see we could actually have clicked up to the Imperial Age much earlier than we it looks like than what we are. We're just gonna hang out in Castle Age. Okay, perfect. Now we're good, right? And so what we're gonna do, right? We've lost this forward position a bit, but again, we're building these units back up. We're building these troops up, right? And we can go in and handle this army a bit, right? We're gonna get more barracks out, and we're on the way up, right? We're on the way up. Take a look at the score. It's not so bad, right? And you can see we've caused a lot of idle economy time. Sadly, right, we lose this monastery, and we have the pikes coming in to chase off the camels, right? Taking out the mangonels, right? This is really great for us, right? We're taking these out, and we're just going to wait for this mangonel, right, to be taken out, so that way we don't have to worry about it anymore, right? Hopefully then, right, we'll ungarrison here because, hey, there's no more threat. Boom. Okay, right? Now we're back, right? And we're going to start trying to do some damage. Again, he can send the camels in, but we do have the pikemen here, right? And these Lithuanian pikemen are just, with squires, they are just so fast, right? They're insanely fast, right? And so, hey, you know, as we do lose the mangonel there, right? Very, very disappointing. But honestly, right, we're just trying to hold this position. We're just trying to get to the next age here, right? Getting some damage, right? We're defending with this mangonel. Now we're starting to push this army back a little bit, right? We got this mangonel on 2 HP. Let's go ahead, right? Get some repairs in. We're almost on the way, right? We're 20 seconds away from hitting Imperial Age. So, right? Right? We've been keeping the pressure on his base, not having the pressure on our base. And this has been really good for us because if you take a look at the idle TC time, the idle eco time, we're doing a lot better than our opponent. Now, our opponent is on 3 town centers, right? So he's going to have more idle eco time that way, or we're just on 2. But, right, what we're doing here, in effect, is we're evening out the playing field in terms of economic bonuses by creating pressure on our opponent, right? So we're going in here, right? We're going to get the upgrade for halberdiers, and so we're going to fare really, really well against these camels. And we can just go ahead, rebuild this siege workshop, and now we have halberdiers, right? So again, we're going with this halb siege push here, something our opponent is not that used to seeing, right? Probably from Lithuanians who really don't get like the greatest siege in the world and really don't get the, you know, they don't get, well, they get interesting halberdiers. You can recoup the pierce armor on them, but you're going to be missing a melee armor, and you're going to be missing blast furnace. Again, if you're up against cavalry, it's not so bad, but they're not the greatest halbs out there. It's still a good trash civilization, and we're going to want to think about that, of course, but we're just going to go ahead, right? These units, we can just spam them all day. All right, we can just keep spamming them. And our opponent is up to Imperial Age, but he's not quite there yet. And again, we're causing a lot of disruption to our opponent's economy here, right? Which is really, really nice for us. Now, at this point, right, one of the things I'm not seeing very much, and in fact, let's go ahead, put it on my perspective here, right? I'm seeing him make some archery ranges, and that feels to me like a signal that he's going to want to increase his skirmisher output, maybe even, right, mix in some crossbows to try to deal with these halberdiers. And so what I want to do here is, since I haven't seen as many camels around, I want to think about adding light cav, if nothing else than to just start inducing some, you might say, some drama into his economy, getting some, right, get some kills, do some raiding, because one of the things we've had so far, we've had a really, really slow army. We've been playing this game very differently, right? We've been playing this game in a more positional manner, where basically we occupied this hill and we just owned it, right? We played positionally and we launched attacks from there, and we kept the fighting in front of his base, right? Now, we haven't really got that deep into his economy, and in fact, right, if you take a look, right, at what I know, I don't have that much updated information on what's going on in his economy. And so I might want to do that, especially now that he's up to imp, right? Our opponent's going for a defensive castle here. I actually don't mind that. It's not that bad. It's a pretty decent castle, right? And we're just trying to get an army where we can make some chaos. If his camels, right? If his camels are, you know, running around chasing light cav in his base, that's fine, right? Then, you know, we still have the halb siege push that we're going with, right? But he still has a decent bit of camels. But we have this, really, I mean, right now we're really rolling with a trash army. I mean, this is our army of the poor, so to speak, right? This is just trash. And hey, we're just going to go ahead and try to get some kills. And, you know, we've gotten some decent kills. We are up 11 villagers, right? Despite that we're on many fewer town centers. And we're trying to add them right now so that we can get more of an economy. And right now, right, we want to try to create here, right? Again, we're keeping the pressure on, right? Playing positionally, building this castle, right? That's going to take away this town center, all these farms, this gold, and our opponent here, right, is trying to gather up the villagers for a tower, but we're going to go ahead, right? We're sending in the light cav. Again, we have this nice mobile force here, and halberdiers are just such an effective counter against camels. He really sort of throws them into the meat grinder to try to deal with this castle, but it doesn't work actually, right? So he's gonna have to go away with that. And now we have this nice castle here. We're building up a lot of eco kills in this area, right? We see this castle, and now we can go away from mangonels. And honestly, what I want to do right here is just go ahead and try to switch into trebuchets, right? We're just gonna try and switch into trebuchets and see if we can take down some of these really well defended areas, right, of our opponent's base. All right, so again, we're playing with this really unusual trash composition here. Again, I think Lithuanians in a trash war, I think they're one of the best trash war civs. You know, we don't really have all of our upgrades necessarily on them, and we're not using skirmishers right now, not mixing that in. There's too much cavalry on the field for it at the moment, but we're just trying to cause some difficulties right now. You know, we could probably get our farm count up a little bit more, but the problem is that we're being raided with camels back home. Now, this, as you can see from the Eco KD, didn't do really that much. Why? Right? He's got camels. He doesn't really, our opponent, even though he has a gold unit, really doesn't have an offensive unit. And that's one of the difficulties about going camels with Indians, and why it's so often you see players go cav archers, is because when it comes to actually doing the raids, you just don't have the pierce armor to be able to fight under TCs, because you're not doing that much damage to non-cavalry units. So you actually have to fight under TCs a lot more to try to kill villagers, because it's going to take you a lot longer. So camels just are not a very good raiding unit, and our opponent taps out. He calls the GG. So in this game, right, what did we do? Well, you know, we tried to take a lead early, and we actually wound up getting a pretty decent lead early, and we thought about what our favorable matchups are, what our win conditions would be in Castle Age and in late game if we got there, right? We tried to get our opponent actually to go away from camels, but he stayed on camels, which, again, as you see from the game, it turned out actually to be really favorable to us, because we were able to keep pressure on his base. We were able to keep our economy safe at home, right? And, you know, we played a very sort of different composition. Instead of playing, you know, a really fast moving composition with Lithuanians, right, which is what you often see, we played a very slow composition, though Lithuanian spearmen are, for a slow unit, they're pretty fast, right? But we played a much more slower composition, but we played positionally by controlling, right, this key area right in front of his base, creating a force that he had to contend with, right? And in the end, that's what won us the game, right? So GG to our opponent, right, who I think played a really swell game, and it looks like he's a Twitch user. So if you're, I haven't been to his channel, but if you want to check him out, right, feel free, go ahead, support people in the community. And hey, if you like this video and you think it was helpful for you, right, you know, I would go ahead, right, if you don't mind liking the video, help us out with the algorithm, help us really take this channel into the stratosphere. We've reached a lot of people, even just over the last couple of weeks. People who are new to the game, coming back, playing, right, trying to get their form back, and people who are longtime veterans of the game. We have great discussions, so I highly encourage you, right, follow the channel. We got a lot of good content coming at you. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. I'm Jimmy James 59, and I'll see you out there in the ladder.